Hello and welcome to Optional Rule. My name is Scott. I'm the host of this weekly show dedicated to D&D discussion, design, and all things gaming. I hope you'll join me today in the discussion. Go ahead and leave a comment, like, subscribe, hit that alarm, do whatever the social media things demand of you. Appease the social media gods, and we will connect. I hope you'll follow me on Twitter. I'm most active there. And of course, I have a blog at optionalrule.com. I'm going to start today by saying that although I have not posted in a couple of weeks, that's because I'm focusing on migrating the site out of WordPress and into a static site generator. The details are not important, but primarily because WordPress is so slow given the theme I'm using. So I'm adapting the theme. It should look same to you. So you'll see all that great content. It will just be a lot faster. It will retain its mobile responsiveness and all the things you need to do to use it properly on your phone or your website or whatever. But that should come out in about the next week or so. So look for that. For you, much shouldn't change. So thank you again for joining me here today. If you are first time, it's great to have you here. If you're watching the archive later on YouTube, go ahead and leave a comment down if you have a comment on anything I'm saying today. Today, I wanted to talk about designing relationship and social encounters and using some tools that might help you do that, and some debates I always have with myself around designing these social encounters. I'm going to use a diagram tool called Lucid Charts today to talk a little bit about how to diagram these relationships and talk about my typical session preparation. I use the Lazy DM session prep for my typical session prep, so I'll be using that again today. So yeah, if you have a comment, thought, subscribe, go ahead and just drop them down. I'd love to make this a conversation. So if there's anything occurring to you as we go along, please go ahead and pop that in. First thing I'm going to do is pop up the font here so you can actually see what I'm typing. So I am running Rhyme of the Frost Maiden, as you probably know if you joined me before. And what I have is a player group that is approaching the last third of the Icewind Dale adventure. Now, Icewind Dale, I've said this before, but if you haven't seen my comment before, I like Icewind Dale's themes and basic kernels, but if I'm being honest, the adventure itself is quite a mess, and I have to do quite a bit of work to sort of make it something that I can tolerate, that I can run. But I do think it's not as hard as other adventures. So riffing on the themes it provides, I really kind of branched out into my own campaign at this point. So where the players are and why do I need a social encounter? Let's talk about that. And let's talk about what social encounters are and aren't, and some pitfalls around social encounters. If you have experience with this, please drop a note down. I'd love to discuss your thoughts on social encounters. But I have a basic outline set up, so I'd love to flesh that out today. So where we are the players. They're in the area of Icewind Dale, which is sort of a northern tundra in the Forgotten Realms. If you're not familiar with the module, it's locked in this eternal winter. That's only somewhat relevant. The goddess Auril is the one doing this. So she's sort of visiting these trials on the people of Icewind Dale. There are native peoples that live in that area called the Reghead Barbarians, the Reghead tribes, and they are aligned along different animal totems. So there's a tiger tribe, a bear tribe, a wolf tribe, and an elk tribe, and they are in the module. I'm trying to honor the original thoughts of the module as I do this design, by the way, but I'm adding a lot of backstory and plot of my own. So the tiger tribe is sort of a very feral, very aggressive tribe, stalking type. The wolf tribe, as you imagine, wolf totem. They're very very independent. They track one another. Bear tribe, very family, clan oriented, strong, strength, that kind of thing. And the elk tribe is more about family, the herd, resource gathering, and so forth. So where the players are they are trying to recover pieces of this. I'm not going to get into the long winter, since I covered that in every stream before. They're trying to recover these magical pieces to sort of get to the end game. And one of the obstacles they have to do is there is a piece of a magical being that they have to recover in a sacred cave to the Reghead tribes. And they are heading there to do it. So, of course, I want some in the module itself. All they do is they just sort of go there. They run into a fight, and then they recover the magic item. but I want to add more to that, and I'm going to tie it into a player's background. So what I've said is that the Tiger Tribe, there's a queen in the Tiger Tribe in the module who is sort of a chosen or real. So I've said she's trying to take over the other Reghead tribal warriors. So there's a big tribal moot happening right outside this sacred cave that I'm adding, where the players are going to. So they have some choices. They can either participate in the moot and try to untie that social knot, which it looks like they're going to do. They could try to sneak into the cave and steal the magic item. They could try to do anything in between, like mess things up and move along. So that's where we're setting things up. Now, this is tied to a player's backstory because one of them is a Reghead tribal, but they grew up in the 10 towns. They don't know who their parents are. Typical D&D storyline, right? So they left it to me to try to figure out. So what I've said is that they are kind of a Hamlet story, right, or a Lion King, depending on how you look at it, right? That I need some backstory, MacGuffin, to sort of drive this social encounter, and that's what this is going to be about. I don't want to just say, well, I could just say the simplest thing, which is they were killed by somebody, and now you're going to take revenge on that person. But I want to make it more integral to the politics and interpolitical relationships of the Reghead warriors. So I'm going to try to design some of that. I've got 3 major players and Bjorn Hild. So what I'm using here is something called Lucid Charts to help me a little bit with the diagramming of these relationships. Now, the thing I always sort of worry about when I do this is that, the problem with relationship diagrams is that you can really model some complex relationships. However, they get if it's so complex that the game master needs a chart. Maybe it's too complex, right? Like maybe that's a bit much, and that's what I always worry about. So we'll start. We'll talk about that certainly today, but I want to. I'm going to color code some of this, so hopefully it's, I'm trying to make a bare brown. What I've got, gray, and I'll say blue. I don't know. Yes, that makes them stand out. So you have 3 basic tribal leaders, and there's actually a 4th one who will not be appearing in this film. So Elk Tribe and King Yargand. Actually, then what I'll do in today's stream, and I'll create some plot line for him as well. So Yargand. Without overcomplicating it, I will say that's a weakness of mine as a game master. I sometimes overcomplicate things. This is not my goal, but sometimes I do that because it's too much plot, too much backstory, and I always think I'm more clever than I am, right? So what I have is we have Gunvar of the Bear Tribe, we have Bjornhild of the Tiger Tribe, we have Isar of the Wolf Tribe, and we have Jargund, that's how you pronounce it, right, of the Elk Tribe. Again, I said not appearing in this film. So what I want the backstory to be is the player character who is part of the tribal, they found out in a previous adventure that their parents, because they saw their parents in like a Valhalla setting, and he realized his mother was a Bear Tribe and his father was Wolf Tribe, and that I said that the tribals have a fetish that they carry that's sort of like a clan tartan from the Scots, which means it designates their family lineage. So if he sees that again, he'll have an indicator to why did I do that. If he sees it again, it tells him who his relatives are. So he'll be able to run across that once he's amongst the Reghead tribesmen. That's actually something important I want to cover first. So plotline, backstory, social encounters. One of the big challenges between, let's say, a novel and a game is, at the end of the day, an interesting backstory is nice and all, but unless it has some relevancy for the player characters, unless it impacts them in some way, gives them a choice to make, that's the most important thing. Why does it matter? Like, why would the player characters pay attention to this? What would they do that makes them want to engage with that storyline? So that in itself is the that's the MacGuffin we're going by, right? So so that's what we have to do. I have to create something where somebody related to somebody in the Bear Tribe, somebody in the Wolf Tribe got together and then are now dead. I have a little bit of a story behind this, but I want to create a little bit more plot line, let people sort of, use this relationship map to show you what kind of tool it could be for your game planning. All right, so what relationship mapping means is just, let me just make centered for my OCD here. It just means that you want to create a quick reference chart to understand what the interactions between different agencies are, right? So, so there's a couple missing agencies. I'm using circles to represent a person. You can decide on whatever you want from this. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I have the father and I have the mother, right? So she's bear tribe. She's bear tribe. He is wolf tribe. So he's a bear tribal. She is I'm using color codes, obviously, to designate bear and wolf. And I wish there was I wish there's a brown here. Do I have a brown? No, I'd have to come up with the RGB color myself. So I'm not going to do that. Yeah, black is probably good enough. Hopefully you can see it on the stream. Why don't I just do purple over here on wolf to hopefully make that stand out a little bit better. All right. All right, so I want to create connections between these people. So these are the 4 principles, right? These are the principles in the module that they don't indicate what the relationship are, but there's some indicators. So to make this tied to that Hamlet-esque thing, I'm going to say the parents of a player character were somehow related to each one of the leaders of their respective tribes. So I know that's a feature I want to put. So we'll put a relationship line here, brother and sister. Sorry. So Gunvald, and let's get some names. So Reghead name generator. I pulled up one before, but I just hit whatever first name generator I run across. So I need a female name for the bear tribe. Sval, no. It has to be something I want to say. Tiffany, no, not going to do that. Gwyn. Yeah, so Gwyn is good. That's a problem with choosing these names off the generator and choosing one I can pronounce is I tend to get a milquetoast name because I can pronounce it. Because I have a Gunvald, a Bjornhild, an Issar, and a Jargond. I have a little bit of trouble pronouncing them. I need a male name, so let's go over to males and Little Wrecker, no, that's too hard for me. Smurd, that's too comedic. Stidham, maybe. Let's do Hind, also too comedic. I don't want anything that's going to break the player's breakdown laughing, right? Elfnund, also too difficult for me to say. Frostgut, it could be okay. Rilladur, the player's name is Store, by the way, so something short and sweet, or at least pronounceable. Ligdil, Hapath, Ath, yeah. Greet, my goodness, this is terrible. Sind, I think I did one before, I'm just going to use that. Lokir is the name of the father. Lokir. Yeah, so let's put some relationships and start talking about how we can use these diagrams to sort of help us have our plot go out. So let's put here to, oops, didn't do it. So here, I'm just getting to know this. This is going to be, now you can choose a couple different ways. You can put a label on it, brother. What do I want? Gunvald to Gwyn. I'm going to have that be a uncle relationship. So Gunvald was Gwyn's uncle, so he's very old in the module, that's why. Issar is much younger, so I'm going to have him be a brother to this guy, to the father. Now, I'm also going to have him have murdered him. So I want, what the back plot I want here is that the tribals are coming together for this moot to discuss what does the put a note in here. So Bjornhild, oh, that's not what I wanted. Wrong way. Do it the other way. So she, yes, she, what does she want? She wants to dominate the Reghead tribes and become queen. So she wants that. Isar just as like a murderer. I don't need to know. I don't know if I need to put plots in here. By the way, so I use my notes and I actually have some of this down here. So this is Return to Lazy Dungeon Master, a technique that's used frequently by Sly Flourishers created in Return to the Lazy Dungeon Master. So this is Lazy DM Prep. Gunvald, I have Gunvald, Bjornhild, and I have Isar down here. And just some notes, secrets, and information, and I have some Reghead tribes. So Gunvald, he is a personality, is a mix of Walder Frey and Tormund Giantsbane from Game of Thrones, if you saw that, which basically means he's someone sort of an old, stodgy man who's mostly interested in his progeny and his sort of legacy, right? And he's also crude. So his personality is crude, as that of a crude warrior who is obsessed with his family legacy, focused on his family's legacy. And he's obsessed with children and having outlived his wives, right? That's what I put down for him. So Bjornhild, she's personality is cold, deductive, transactional, and she's bullying. She's herself as a chosen of Orreal to lead the Reghead to a new era united by her in their lands. Yeah. So, and then Isar Kronenstrom, that's there's no leader for the wolf tribe. There's one sort of dominant personality that, and this is from the module. Some of the personality things I've made up, but he's basically just psychotic. He's a murderer. He loves to hunt down people from the 10 towns. The wolf tribes are they concerned about him. They won't follow him, but they're also afraid of him. So his personality is unstable, offensive, aggressive, bullying. He wants chaos, lives only for the hunt, and dominating others around him. So he's basically like the Joker from Batman. Yeah, so he's like, do I look like a man with a plan? So that's the basis that I'm dealing with. So what I wanted to say is that set the backdrop of Bjornhild is pulling this tribal moot where she's going to display her powers with these Charterland berserkers who are fueled by this magic item that the players are after. The magical MacGuffin here is they can't die, basically. They come back. So they're sort of like the Lord of Light, or I forget the character's name from Game of Thrones, where when he would die, he'd become, fire would be breathed back into him and he'd come back to life. That's sort of where they are. So she's going to use that as a display to her power to cow the other tribes member into following her and pledging allegiance to Orreal. That's what this mood is about. So the players are going there. They have an opportunity, sandboxy, right? They can choose what they want to do. They can undermine her claim to power. They can undo this magical MacGuffin. They could steal it and leave the tribe to figure out what they want to do. It's really up to them. But I do know that one of the players, the player character Stor, who's the child of these two tribesmen, he said he wants to get involved somehow, though we'll talk about that in a second, because I don't know what that means, to be honest. No, that's not what I want to do. I struggle with these tools, by the way, so you might find you struggle as well. No, that's not what I wanted. I'm trying to delete that text box that I just added. So, all right, let's go back to this. Let's see if we can draw a relationship between these two. All right, this is an uncle relationship, as I said before. Uncle, loving. Yeah, because he's interested in his family. So his brother was her, or brother or sister was her father. We'll have to figure that out in a second. So this is a brother relationship here, but Isar, as I just said, he's unstable. Lokir, so let's do some secrets and clues. So one of the techniques of Lazy Dungeon Master is that you list out secrets and clues. Now I'm going to delete these out because I didn't know in the last session. This is a copy from my last session notes. I didn't know last session which way they were going to go. I had two adventures in front of them. So I'm going to delete these and pull them back in when it becomes relevant from previous notes. So I know it's Cave of the Berserker, so I don't need to go there. So let's take out some notes. So what we had is the last tribal moot was, however the old the character is, was I don't know, X years ago. I have to look up the store's age. Ago, when the tribal leaders tried to form an alliance by marrying each other's children to each other by arranged marriages. I'll say by arranged marriage. Like the people in the South do, like the Lords of the South do. Lords of the South. All right. This went horribly long. And a war broke out after Lokir and what's her name? Lokir and Gwyn fell in. So let's take a note first. So Lokir and Gwyn fell in love and tried to run off together. So very classical, right? Lokir was supposed to marry, both were supposed to marry somebody else. Yeah, so that's going to be basically what caused X number of years ago the last tribal move for them to split and go away from each other. There was they tried to run off. There was a child born. That's the player character. Let's see who they were killed by. So I'm going to say Bjornhild killed Lokir because she was supposed to marry him. Let's say so. Bjornhild killed. So let's put a relationship here. Actually, let's say, okay, let's make it too complex. There's one of the things you can do. Former lovers. There was a time, if you saw that Oliver Stone movie, Natural Born Killers, they're both crazy people who love to murder. So let's say that they went on this sort of natural born killers rampage across when they were young. And that's where all of this... that's where all this sort of came apart. So let's start here. We're lovers. Say she killed her. Murdered. Get these apart. Some of these can be difficult to tell. The auto alignment, right? So murdered, and Issar will say he murdered his brother as well. So when they were lovers, they went and they killed their respective love rivals, right? Let's say Lokir was supposed to marry Bjornhild, but she was having an affair with Issar. That leaves Jormund pleasantly out of it, right? Betrothed. All right. I wonder if it's an arrange. Can I auto arrange this? Auto layout hierarchy. Yeah, that's nothing. I don't need that in there. That note's just going to get people confused. All right. Okay, so I can do this a little bit, and it's going to give me these. So Gunvald, loving brother. So he hates loving uncle. Gwyn. So he hates. We'll say he hates Bjornhild. Hates, wants to kill. We'll just say hates. I don't need to get into descriptions here. Could I create? I wonder if I can create. Bjornhild doesn't really care about him, but he hates her. That's another, by the way. So if you're going to do this, you can create bi-directional lines or single lines. So a good way to sometimes a relationship goes one way and not both ways. So Issar murdered Lokiel, but Lokiel didn't murder. But anyway, brothers go both ways. So Gunvald hates Bjornhild. He probably doesn't care about Issar because that's not his brother. They probably also, Bjornhild and Issar probably dislike each other. They're probably rivals. So let's put a rivalry in here, shall we? Yes, Bjornhild rivals. You can color code this, and there's other diagramming tools to do this with. Hi everybody. Yeah, is that a story flowchart? Root of all beers. First of all, welcome. I love that name. Is that a story flowchart? It is a relationship map. So what you want to do is name the connections between characters and if you have any emotions or things like that. So if you're brothers or rivals and things like that. So there's that tier. And then the other tier is what's a relationship map. Just because you're brothers doesn't mean you love each other. You might hate each other, right? So that's what the intention is. Hello, Fever Dream Studios. Great to have you here. Hello, hope you're doing well. It's great. My internet is spotty. Let me try to reconnect. Yeah, no problem. So I'm just using this basic tool. Now, this gets messy quickly. So again, I'm going to choose this as my auto arrange to try to get something that's hopefully sensible. All right. So yeah, Issar and so that's a two-way relationship. They were former lovers. That was also a two-way relationship. But they don't like each other now. So let's see what we got. Loki are dead. He's dead. He did. As you can see, this gets complex really quick. So Lokiel's dead. Gunvald is alive. Gwyn is dead. What else do I need here? How's Gunvald? Issar, does Issar have a connection to Gunvald? Yeah, he probably wants to kill his children off, right? Wants to kill, so hatred as well. I should put her in the middle because she's dead. They're all dead, right? All dead people go in the middle. Hierarchy. Let's see what we get if we do. Unfortunately, it creates a convoluted mess. It's confusing to begin with. So anyway, all right. So that's what we have for relationship map, right? So there's these Issar and Bjornhild, former lovers and rivals, right? Bjornhild had been betrothed to Lokiel, but Lokiel was murdered by his brother up here. Let's see. Yeah, so Bjornhild also murdered Gwyn, who there's no relationship between those two. I don't know why. I should put a loving relationship. Hold on. So these two loved each other. That's the basis of this, right? Oh, nope, that's not what I meant to do. Boop, boop, boo. Yeah, these diagrams get confusing. And again, my big doubt here, right, is that in love. So love. My big doubt is always, boy, if this is so complex, I need a diagram to figure it out as a game master. What's my hope to keep my players together, right? But I'm just going to have to go with it, right? You have to trust your players. They can figure out some kind of complexity and move this forward. So let me go back to hierarchy, see if we get some sort of Lokiel and Gwyn. Let's put them out here. They were both murdered, obviously. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Oh, that's a good... So, yeah, rivals and former lovers right here. Gunvald, loving uncle to Gwyn, didn't really know Lokiel. Issar, brother, murderer to Lokiel, and these were two lovers. So that's the sort of the dynamic that the players are coming into. Now, the question is, how do you express this to them in some way that makes sense? So you as a game master now, you have an idea what the integral relationships are. You don't need to drop this on the players because you want to keep things simple, right? You need, especially right now, my game is a online game, so I don't have that. I don't have that in person people paying attention piece. And even if so, like people are obsessed with things like Critical Role, where Marisha takes very detailed notes, which is great. I love that, but most players don't do that. So the reason I've said Jargon, the Elk tribe, has been left out there, outcast. The Queen Bjornhild will not deal with them, and I'll tell you why. I can't figure out where to put him in the middle of this mix. Right? He why does he care? Right? That's not what what I didn't want a fourth relationship. Let's say that's the one that Gwyn was supposed to marry. Yeah, so I just add it if I want a piece of background. We'll say that she's the one that he's the one she was supposed to marry, but he never wanted to anyway. Betrothed. So yeah, so he's kind of out. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this. And we'll even say he was good friends with Lokir. Yeah, that's good. Friends. Yeah, that's good. So let's put dead in parens. Dead. All right, so that's the basics of relationship mapping. You can see, well, who knew who? How did this whole thing play out? So now you want to translate this back into something you can relate to your players in some interesting way. So we have the sequencing information. It's a technique in the Return to Lazy Dungeon Master. I'm not going to unpack all of that today, but you want to basically keep it pretty simple. The last tribal moot was X years ago when the tribal leader tried to form an alliance by arranged marriages like the Lords of the South do. This went horribly wrong. We'll say, so what do we have here? Lokir was betrothed, proposed to marry Bjornhild. Gwyn was supposed to marry Jormund. I don't even Elk tribe guy. What's his name? Jargund. Yeah, Jargund. But both fell in love. But Lokir, Gwyn fell in love and ran off together. The tribes. The tribes fell apart, went to war with each other. All right. Then we know that Bjorn, Hild, and Isar were lovers, united in hatred for their sibling, or, well, former lovers. So went on a murdering spree and killed Lokir and Gwyn. Let's put Jargon back in here in the camp, the Elk tribe camp, where they were hiding under the protection of Jargon. All right. Hopefully you solved the issue. Yeah, me too. Hope so, Treat Field Dream Studio. So I'm trying to relate, what I'm trying to do right now, basically, is I've written this diagram of this complex relationship of this sort of political intrigue that happened X number of years ago, just basically before one of the player characters were born, because they are the product of this. And because these two characters, Gwyn and Lokir, fell in love, had a child, Store, that's the player character. They were supposed to marry other people to basically form an alliance between the tribes. Lokir was supposed to marry Bjornhild. Gwyn was supposed to marry Jargon. The reason why I even put a small secret in for Jargon, the reason why Jargon didn't care is he was gay and in love with was is gay, and was in love. I'm gonna say he was in love. I'm not gonna make everybody in love. Was Lokir's best friend. Yeah, so that should do it, right? So that's the past thing. I try to keep things in threes, right? So I don't want more than 3 points. That's different. As I said, this is not Critical Role. I don't have Marisha Ray keeping notes like this. So what I have is I have 3 facts from the past, and I want to merge that with 3 facts from the future. So this is under the sequence of information, but it's kind of backstory. This is what players can discover as they move forward and sort of question and talk to people. So this is what I want to do, is seed these secrets in. So when the player characters go to this location of the tribal moot, they're going to have hundreds of small tribal groups, 15 to 30, sort of camping together, waiting for the moot, being sort of, so the tribals are very doubtful. So what's the backdrop to let me put it as a secret for this, because the player characters don't know, so it's officially a secret. Tribals are doubtful, tribals distrust and but fear Bjornhild, but worn down by the Great Winter, they fear she is only way their tribes can survive, their clans can survive. She seems to be chosen by Oriel. So her whole premise is, I have might, I am chosen by Oriel. This Great Winter is going to kill everybody here who is not worshiping Oriel and following the true path. That's her pitch. And so so Bjornhild, what's the other secret? Bjornhild secret, not secret, but is going to pit her warriors, is going to pit her berserkers against the best warriors of each of the tribes in combat to show her power, Oriel's power. And what that's going to do is, a backdrop to this is those berserkers can't die. There's a magical flame inside their sacred cave that, as long as that is a light on these moot grounds, they don't know it's off the ground. It doesn't apply to off the grounds, but on this sacred ground, they can't die. So they'll have all of these terrible frost burn scars all over their body, which are where the previous wounds healed. So there's like quasi undead, right? The players will pick up. Oh, that's another good one. So berserker are partial undead. I can even use the what is that? Reborn lineage from Van Richten's guide. So berserkers are partially undead that cannot be killed while on the sacred grounds, Oriel sacred. This is powered by the heart of Vidandri, which I've already set up. That's just Norn that Oriel is torn apart. So I've already set this up, which appears as a flame, in a large flame. So it's a bonfire inside the caves. Yeah. So that's the So that's a setup. So the players are going here. They're going to get involved, and they have a choice. I actually don't know what they're going to do. And this is an interesting thing about political plots. And if you have feedback, I'd love to hear it. One of the big falls of political plots is they rely heavily on the logic of the game master and the players, right? And you can have about how people behave. Like when certain things happen, they think they'll get certain outcomes. And so people come into these political scenarios in D&D with assumptions of how things unravel and how the world works. And when they don't align, you get disasters, right? You get disastrous behavior. And I'm already concerned about that because I can say last session, one of the plot lines, the players heard that this tribal moot was going to go on. They were going to go there, and that the Tiger Tribe Queen was trying to persuade everybody there that she should rule them all. So one of the player character who's a Reghead barbarian, or at least of that lineage, his idea, which I'm stuck with because it's in my opinion, a bad idea. He just wants to go there and say, well, he's in charge. But he's not a leader of any tribe. No one follows him. That's not how it works. It doesn't. So I have to relate that to him in some way. So I'm gonna, if he talks to anybody, which the player character doesn't talk a lot. If he talks to anyone, he's going to say, "Listen, no, you have no glory. No one follows you." Although I'll talk about the complications of that in a second. It's a great complication, but we'll see. So he doesn't have any juice, basically. So the best as a game master. What I am concerned about is this mismatch between him and I. In his mind, I think he thinks he walks through the front door. I'm a 5th level warrior. He'll kick everybody's butt, and he becomes in charge. That's not how it works, right? You have to have parlayed followers. You have to be a tribal leader or be a known name. And once you get to that level, you can make an assertion of that claim. And even the Tiger Tribe Queen, she's only doing this because she has the power of a reel to show and a name behind her. So some unknown isn't just going to walk into camp, kick somebody's butt, and become the leader. But the player character clearly thinks that. So I can use that. The player character has not grown up around the Regheads, so he doesn't know their tradition. So I can lean into that, but I'm going to have to provide some fodder for him interacting. Now, the one complication to this, which is a great complication, yeah, all right, I've hopefully solved it. Yeah, you could put that kind of info behind a history check to see what the culture of this civilization is. I could do that, and I could tell you what I don't like about that, though, is that I hate, actually, maybe this is my fault failing as a game master, because the way that mechanically that works is they roll a dice, and then I'd start to tell them things. I do a lore dump, and I do that a lot, much more than I want to already. I'm trying to avoid that. I would like to have someone tell them something in character to have them respond in character. That's my preferred way, although I'll be honest, I don't always have a way to do that, right? Especially when it's background knowledge they should have. And maybe the character can be just wrong too. So my inclination is to get them in the midst of the tribals, get them talking, and then tell them, well, you can't just take over. You have no followers, you have no name, you have no glory. No one will follow you. But you could prove and give them an alternative path, right? But you could show that Bjornhild has no power and she can be defeated. Like that, give them an alternate path. I want that conversation to happen somewhere. But I'll have to figure out, I'll also have to look for opportunities. So in these social encounters, you roll the dice a lot because for all I know, next session when they get to the moot site, that player might run through the front gate and just attack the queen. I have no idea. But I hope not, but we'll have to see. But anyway, if you have any Fever Dream Studios, you have any thoughts on that, that is a great idea. Because history check should mean something. That's also that's your point, right? Which I totally agree with. But I'm trying to get out of doing these lore dumps, and I want to make it more interactive. And I can. So how are they going to sit around these tribes? So actually, let me throw that in. Where we left last session is they were in the midst of a fight with a vampire warrior. So they have this home base that they've gotten to. They were preparing to go. To this, they had heard this moot was going to happen, and the player characters were preparing to go there. So I just threw in 2 random encounters that changed the trajectory in a great way, and I'm glad I did. First, I wanted to give them some chance to talk to tribals before they went there, because again, I wanted them to talk to people instead of doing a lore dump. So coming through their valley, right past their their home base is a group of 15 small tribes from the wolf tribe. They're coming through. They're asking if they can camp in the valley that night, and the players interact with them and decide and make a good roll with them to say they want to walk with them to where this tribal mood is taking place. So they've already got a dialogue going with a few wolf tribe members. They're traveling with them. I rolled weather that day. I rolled a 1, which is the worst you can roll. So this huge blizzard hit. They're all tied together in this horrible line, trying to get through this horrible blizzard. And the player, I described last stream, but I won't get into the whole thing again. But they had a fight. It ended up they got attacked by a gnoll vampire, which is a great monster from Icewind Dale. And they were in the midst of a fight, and we left off in the middle of it because we ran out of time that session. But it worked out really well because one of the player characters, there was a gnoll vampire that attacked, but they had a bunch of regular gnolls who also attacked. So the players could see 10 feet. They had only visibility of about 10 feet. They get attacked by the vampire and maybe a few gnolls, and they hear up the line the other red-head barbarians are being attacked by these gnolls as well. So the barbarian character just so happens he fails his wisdom save against a fear check for the vampire. So he couldn't get any closer. So he runs up the line. And as he goes up the line, he sees these other wolf tribe member being attacked by gnolls. He's a 5th level character. Are they 5th or 6th? They're 5th level characters. So he has this magical hammer, and he's literally playing golf because he runs to the next person in line, sees they're in a fight with a gnoll, and he one shot kills a gnoll. Well, it's his 2 attacks kills a gnoll, runs to the next one, and keeps doing that. So he parlayed this having to run in fear of the vampire into going like daisy chaining saves of all the other wolf tribe members up to so. What's going to happen? Assume the players survive, which we left off with a big question mark with the fight with this vampire, because one of the player characters had the vampire turned, and then another player character dropped a fireball on it because they wanted to use fireball. So the fight continues, and it's a tough fight. They might die. We might get a TPK, but my inclination as a game master is, hey man, they did that on purpose, so that's on them. But anyway, where we could end up. This is a great social cue because let's say the players win against this vampire. The situation they're in now is they've saved this tribe members. Maybe they lost two members when they would have lost most of them, right? Against the gnolls. They saved this wolf tribe, so they consider him a hero. They've defeated this vampire, which that's another thing I want to say. So that's another secret. So I want to have this vampire mean something because I literally threw it in as a random encounter just because I was hurting that I couldn't use this gnoll vampire encounter written in the book, and I really liked it, but I couldn't get to it economy wise. So I'm going to say that the tribals all have legend. So they're great, but tribals great terror. So they have been hunted by this vampire. Tribal have been hunted by this vampire, who they consider the great enemy. Plaguing everyone. So when the player character defeats them, they'll be able to go with some juice to say, this is why you should listen to me. That still won't be enough to take over the tribes, but it'll be, listen, I'm a great tribal hero. I do have some cred to my name, and this is the proof, right? You'll just throw down the head of the gnoll vampire or something like that, right? That'll be fantastic. So everyone has to take them seriously. So my hope is if they decide to sit amongst the tribals, hear their story out, there's going to be that's when this history of who his mother and father were will come out. He'll see the fetish on the bear tribal leader and realize it's the same fetish he saw on his mother. So that'll be a clue. I hope he picks up on it. And he'll do likewise with the wolf tribe warrior. So he'll be able to track down the history of his parents and figure out how that whole thing came out. And I don't really know how it's going to go. So this is a great, again, we're doing sandboxy here. I have the setup They know there's a magical item they would need to recover from inside the cave for their own purposes. They don't realize that it's fueling the warriors that the Tiger Tribe Queen is using. They don't realize that there's a familial history between the player character and the other people that will be there. So all this will be uncovered, and it's up to the players to figure out what to do. So this is their big MacGuffin. So I'm really gonna have to see how this does. Fever Dream Studios was saying, I usually give a skeleton rundown with history checks unless it's very high. Yeah, I agree. And I would love to do that too. I could do that exactly what you're saying about like how are tribal leaders selected. Yeah. I probably could do that. So there's a couple of facts I could give the players, right? So I'll even say facts I want to give out. So last tribal history check. So that's a great idea, Fever Dream Studio. It's a great idea. History check. Last tribal moot was just before they were born. So tease, right? Foreshadowing. Ended in some big disaster that caused the tribes to fight. And what's the third one? I always try to do things in 3. And, leaders. There's never been a single Reggae leader. I don't want to say that, actually. What do I want to say? I want the Tiger Tribe lady to assert something, some old tradition where she's their Moses, right? Like in times of hardship, a single leader is chosen from the strongest tribal leaders. This has not happened in hundreds of years. Centuries. So those are 3 facts I can give them, right? Chosen. The tribal elder doctor carries the history of the previous leaders. Yeah, I do have that already, actually. So I don't need that as a secret. So, because I've seen it in from session like 2. There's a tradition of what they call the Horizon Stalkers, which are like originators to the Horizon Walkers Ranger class, which were representatives of the tribe that guarded the plains, the intrusion into the Icewind Dale from creature of other planes, and they guarded the history of the other tribals. They would shepherd the souls of lost tribesmen into the afterlife. That was their whole bit, right? Yeah, but there's a potential here. So let me put in another secret. So Horizon Stalkers escorted so they maintained like holy places, holy groves, things like that. Escorted the dead, souls of the dead, or opened pathways for the souls of the dead to enter into the afterlife. They have died out and not the tradition died out, I'll say a century ago. And the tribes have been lost spiritually since. Yeah. That's a plot line the player abandoned a while back. I had this great magic item where they had this mantle that they were able to put on, and they could transform into an animal totem from the various tribes. So I had like tiger, bear, wolf, eagle, all this other stuff, but the player characters never went after that thing. So I'm going to revive that storyline and say that's what they did. Yeah, and the tribal elders carry the history of the previous leaders. So that's going to happen when they talk to the family members. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. So this is really convoluted. This is hard to do because it's all backstory, right? And it's going to be a role-playing challenge with some combat. The players may choose to form alliances. So when they that's where this so if they want to play people against each other, this is how they can do that, right? They can Jargon is left out, right? He was friends with Lokiel, but he's not participating in this tribal moot, and the Elk tribes have been left out of this because they won't have anything to do with Bjornhild. Uh, Gunvar hates and fears Bjornhild. His problem is he hates and fears her. So basically, I have. But he does not fear Isar. Yeah. So that's where this relationship chart comes in. So what I'm going to do, and that's why these become important. So what's going to happen is I've got all these notes written. I've got all this backstory to relate out to the player characters. Now, the problem is, since it's a social encounter, I can't just say they go from A to B to C to D. All right, I can't do that. These are how do players approach people? What information do they uncover? What plots do they put in process of their own? And there's no way as a game master to predict that out. So what you want to do is let something happen and then look, oh, when the player characters go talk to Bjornhild and say, I'm a child of Lokiel, how did that work out? What was their back history? How would she likely react to that? She would probably want to kill them, right? But that would probably cause some consternation amongst the Wolf Tribe members because they have a leader that they don't really like. Gunval is respected amongst the Bear tribes. Isar is not respected amongst the Wolf tribesmen. Bjornhild has killed all the rivals who didn't respect her amongst the Tiger tribe. So, like, how does this whole thing play out when someone gets in the middle? That's an important part. Like, Jargon, if they were able to entice somebody from Elk to sort of support them and go off in a different, they'd have to go off in some Herculean effort to get them involved. That's a possibility, but I don't know. Gunvald, they could get him to turn on Bjornhild, but it would take some effort to overcome his fear of her, and they'd have to give him some backing, right? Something that made him confident he could do it. Isar could undermine his relationship with other Wolf Tribe members who don't like him but fear him. So that's what these relationship diagrams become important, because once you started getting this mix of how do these pieces behave when they start to encounter one another, there's no way to predict it. It's a complex system. So having this chart will help you do that. All right, so yeah, this is probably a low-key stream today. Sorry about that, but I'm trying to plan this adventure, and I wanted to throw in some sort of rich role-playing opportunities for characters as they sort of come forward. So that takes a lot of backstory and how I'm going to get that out the door. Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and stop today. I'm going to end it here. I appreciate it. We're like 3 minutes early. That's about an hour stream. I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much. It's been great having you here. I hope you join me every week. I stream every week. It's on Saturdays at 12 noon here on Twitch. I simultaneously stream on YouTube. I hope you'll follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the social medias, like, subscribe, do all those things. So I'm going to cover it off here, and I'll tell you how this session went next week, and I hope. Thank you. I hope you have a great week. And remember, in the meantime, fun is not optional. All right, thanks, everybody. You take care. I have to end my stream. I'm never smooth at this.
I feel